You've just joined the Prepper Broadcasting Network, where we promote self-reliance and independence. The views and opinions expressed are strictly those of the host or their guests. Visit us in the interactive chat room at PrepperBroadcasting.com.
This broadcast also brought to you in part by Emergency Essentials. Power outage, hurricanes, flash floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, solar flares, job loss, zombies, Armageddon. It doesn't matter what you're preparing for, Emergency Essentials will help. From tips for preparedness to food and water storage to ready-to-go emergency kits. Visit their website at BePrepared.com and let Emergency Essentials help you prepare for, well, anything. Tonight's broadcast also brought to you in part by Seed for Security. For carefully selected, open-pollinated, non-GMO grain and vegetable seeds, visit the Seed for Security website. There you will also find many homesteading articles and photographs taken at the Seed for Security farm. We welcome you at www.seedforsecurity.com. Once again, www.seedforsecurity.com.
What a storm. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Preparing for Life Storms with BexarPrepper. Today is Tuesday, July 17th, 2012, and it's my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. We are on air from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time on the first and third Tuesdays of the month on American Preppers Radio, powered by PrepperBroadcasting.com, now bringing you 10 live shows 7 days a week at 6 and 8 p.m. Central Time. So check the schedule to see what's coming up. We invite you to call into the show at 347-202-0228. Remember to press 1 to speak to me. Most of you have probably heard me say once or twice how I got my start in canning. But for those of you that haven't, I was 17, active duty Air Force, and living off base in the country with about 10 close neighbors, all over 60. I would get up in the morning for work and find baskets of fruits and vegetables on my porch. And within the next few days, the giver would show up and say, "Let's show you what to do with those." So my education began, and over the next 5 years, they taught me everything they knew. Pretty soon, I had a very well-stocked food storage and have been increasing my knowledge and skills ever since. Sorry, folks, I'm having some phone difficulties here. Can you hear me in the chat room? All right, well, I'm going to continue, hoping everybody can hear me. Great, thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about canning. And I don't know if that's me, folks, so I'm just going to move on. And why do you can? Well, if you freeze instead of can, then you have to worry about your food getting freezer burned and using it up, within the 9 months it says to. Or if you go to the store one day and everything's gone, what are you going to do? Yeah, great point, MIB, that food you can isn't poison. So, you lose power, well, no problem. You've got your food can. So home canning got an undeserved black eye back in 1977 when the largest single outbreak of botulism ever recorded in the United States was traced to improperly home canned peppers served in a Michigan restaurant. 45 diners were stricken. No deaths resulted from this outbreak because diagnosis and treatment were swift. Botulism is a wretched illness. In the early days of canning, the open kettle method was used. The 212-degree temperature, the highest temperature possible by this method, was effective in the preservation of tomatoes, red and green peppers, and other high-acid foods. The fruit acid, in addition to the boiling temperature, was sufficient to inhibit the growth of harmful organisms. But the canning of meat and most vegetables was still a treacherous business at best in either home or factory. The addition of chemicals such as salt and calcium chloride raised the temperature of the boiling juices to as high as 240 degrees and eliminated some of the inevitable spoilage of the expense and flavor texture. Now, we all know that at 240 degrees, you're at 10 pounds of pressure, okay? Now, in the past, and when I began canning, everything was canned in a pot. Canners just were either too expensive or people couldn't use them. So, and jams, and jellies, you didn't even process those. Yeah, if your shed was hot, your wax melted a little, the jelly seeped up, or you got a buttable and the jelly seeped up, and it would mold, and you would scrape that mold off and open that wax up and keep on eating. We were much less freaked out about bacteria and spores, expiration dates, and just plain figured things out for ourselves. Now, I do not recommend, because I don't do it anymore, that you can vegetables and meat without a pressure canner. But I also know that in some of my listeners that live in Africa or are in the UK where they cannot get the equipment, there is a free book on the internet that can tell you about the old ways. Just look up Every Step in Canning by Grace Vile Gray, and they also have a free Kindle book. Now, if you do so choose to use those methods, remember, you must sterilize your jars. You cannot skimp on that process. You must boil them. And you must boil the food as you take it out of the jar. So that is all I'm going to say on the old ways. And now we're going to get started talking about canning and your questions. Right now I have Cindy in the queue from Texas. Hey, a fellow Texan. Come on in, Cindy.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you this evening?
Really good. It's really hot over here. But
I know that.
I'm very, very panicky about beginning to can, and I wanted to know what are your top 3 safety tips for canning?
My top, are you going to be doing fruits and vegetables or meat or both?
Probably both.
Okay. My top tip is to make sure you're starting with a good product. That's number 1. It can be overripe, but it cannot be bad. So if you start with a good product, you end up with a good product. My second step is that I recommend is that you bring the pressure up slowly and reduce it slowly. That will ensure that you don't cause breakage, you don't get popped lids, and you don't not reach the proper temperature within your jars. And then my third thing would be, make sure you follow what your pressure canner says, I guess. You know, Purtue's pretty much all I have. Does that help?
It helps a lot. It really does. I mean,
And don't be afraid.
Yes, and I am very afraid because, like you said, you know, botulism is very, very bad, and I am just like, I've got 6 boys. And a husband who's a diabetic. I could wipe out my whole family if I do something wrong. So, you know, I'm really, really trying to be as safe and as clean as possible.
And that's great, but let me try to calm your fears a little bit. You know that lockjaw, how prevalent is lockjaw nowadays? Lockjaw, you're lucky if you see a case every 3, 4, 5 years, maybe, if ever. Well, the rates of botulism are 10% of that of lockjaw. It's really hard to get botulism. It really, really is. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to not see the problem within your jar before you open it or smell it when you open it. It's really hard to get that. So I think that's one of the problems that I've noticed on YouTube is that there's this great fear being spread. And I understand USDA. I don't agree with 90% of what the USDA says, but if you're one of those that wants to follow the USDA, go right ahead. But they're about not giving us the ability to figure things out for ourselves and trust our own intuition. And I don't think people are as stupid as that. If you don't sterilize your jellies and your pickle jars because it's in a water bath, then yeah, they're probably going to spoil on you. You don't have to sterilize your jars in a pressure canner. The pressure canner sterilizes your jars for you. You want them to be clean. You know, and you don't ever can meat that's getting ready to go bad. But don't be afraid.
Because I buy a lot of I know that when you go to H-E-B, the grocery store, that if you go and right when they open, you can buy like, you know, a 14-pack of chicken legs, and they put a big red sticker on it that says reduced, you know, and you can get like all the chicken legs for like $1. Now, is that safe or is that considered questionable because it's been reduced? Or do you mean like if it's been sitting in my fridge for 4 days already, don't cook it?
Well, okay. Now, if you have chicken sitting in your fridge for after 4 days, would you still cook it if it smelled good?
No.
Okay. Then that is your guideline. I think everybody has a different tolerance. I mean, I store all my leftovers in canning jars because if you store them in canning jars, they'll last you 3 weeks without spoilage. But I know a lot of people that look at that or hear that and go, ooh, it's what you're comfortable with. If you will bring that chicken home and cook it for your family that night, then there's absolutely no reason you can't can it. I myself, I buy that all the time.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I mean, you just gave me some really good guidelines to follow, and, you know, I'm feeling exceptionally confident now.
It's really easy, and it's a lot of fun, and I really think that once you do it, you're going to go, oh, my goodness, what was I afraid of? It is really fun. And, yeah, to open a jar and say, honey, dinner served.
I know.
I mean, how cool is that?
So cool. Yeah. Thank you so much. You've been so wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome, and you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks, we've got a question here. Mom to 8 kiddos. Seems like it would be better to get a PC pressure cooker with a weight instead of a gauge. They don't need to be checked annually for safety if SHTF safety checks might be impossible. Okay, well, that is a good point. Okay, let me give you an example here. I've had my Presto canner since 1980, the one you see in my videos if you watch my videos. Now, the only thing I've done to it besides every 10 years, and every 10 years I get the gauge checked. I have yet to have a gauge that was off. I take the rubber seal out every single time. I wash it, I dry it thoroughly, and I put it in the box. And every 10 years I check the gauge. That is it. If SHTF were to happen, I would not worry about it. If I was concerned, I would increase the pressure by 1 pound. You've got to do what you can afford to do instead of worrying about what the books say. Like I said, USDA has really, I was reading in one of these books and it said, okay, now we have new rules. And it was 1962. And then, now you couldn't do this and now you can't do that. But yet our ancestors have been doing it for years. So you have to do what you're comfortable doing and not just trust others. I may do it one way that you think is, whoa, crazy, I'm not going to do it that way. Then don't do it. I wonder if you can can oysters in the shell, Ironhead said. Oysters are really, really tricky. Any fish or seafood has a tendency, I can barely hear myself. So they have a tendency to spoil rather easily. You really have to be meticulous with fish, oysters, lobster, clams, anything like that. So I would never do them in the shell because of the air that would be in the shell with them, and that is going to leave too much oxygen in your jars for maybe the pressure canner to get out. If you poke the big hole through the shell, you might do okay. Freaky. I am new to canning. What is the difference between a weight or a gauge? On my Presto canner, I actually have both. But what they have is on that vent tube, there is either a little single-piece metal component or it is a multiple-piece metal component. The metal piece component that comes apart is your weighted gauge, and each one of those weights is a certain poundage. Now, some pressure canners have the weighted gauge and the gauge, and so you actually use both. You put the 10 pounds on, and then you use your gauge, and your gauge is not going to go up any further than 10, 12 pounds maximum anyway. So it's all a way of telling you where you're at in your processing, because some foods require 10 pounds, some foods require 11 pounds, 15 pounds. It depends on your altitude and that kind of thing. So we've got another question here from Pet Prepper. Bear, I heard you say something about jars being pitted. Could you talk about that? Well, if you have pitted jars, they have a tendency to break in the canner, especially in pressure canning process. So, don't risk it. Throw them out, because we grow most of our own vegetables, and that is really hard-earned work to go and can them and lose them. Last year I went and tried some new jars, and I used 11 of them on my green beans and one of them doing my zucchini. And they were the mainstay jars, and I don't mind saying they're the mainstay jars. And every single one of those jars, whether it was canned as the zucchini or if it was canned as the green beans, only those jars all spoiled. And when I got to looking at them, what you could tell was the lids, the rubber gasket on the lids of the jars was extremely thin. And so it was completely pressed in, but it was so thin that it wouldn't keep a seal. So spend the extra $1 and get the better jars. You know, get yourself some Tattler lids. I absolutely love Tattler lids. North Bama says, waiting on the phone. North Bama, I don't see you on the phone. Did you remember to press 1? So remember, folks, the phone number is 347-202-0228, and press 1 to get into the queue. So, you know, just be meticulous. And, you know, there's a new process for the fall jars. There is now a seam that runs up the side of the jars. One of my subscribers asked me about it. So I went out to the store last week, and I went and opened some boxes and opened some plastics and checked those jars out. And, yes, every single jar has a seam on them now, which means they're just getting cheaper at making their jars on us because the economy is not getting better. But the very top rim is smooth, and that's what you have to watch for on your jars. That rim, as long as that rim is smooth, it's going to seal. So just always run your finger around that rim before you bother putting it in to sterilize or to wash. And if you feel anything on there, either scrape it off or trash that jar because it's horrible to lose your product. All right. We have North Bama Prepper in the queue. Hey, North Bama Prepper.
Hey, Bear. How you doing?
Good. How are you this evening?
Good. Let me qualify this first to say that I'm not really a canning newbie, but I don't know a whole lot about it. Let's put it that way. I watched my grandmother do it, but I don't do it myself. And I've got a question. I've seen you guys can meats and things like that, but now what about like link sausage?
Yes, you can, but what you have to do with the link sausage, if it has the sausage skin on it, what's going to happen as it gets processed, it's going to explode that skin. So what you need to do is you need to fork it. So when I say fork it, you mean to stick your fork in several places. I usually do 4 places so that it helps prevent it from exploding.
Oh, okay. And now do you put...
Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm real curious here. Do you like just stick it in the jar? Do you put any liquid in with the jar, or
is it raw sausage or is it that cooked sausage links?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like a raw sausage.
Wonderful. Just toss them in the jar, put the lid on, and process them. That's it. Yep. Poke them, jar, process. Anytime you're dealing with raw meats, you're going to just peel them up and process them. If you've got cooked meats, then you're going to add water. Now, that's not to say that if you sear something, you have to add water. If you just sear it, you don't have to add water. Because a lot of meats like sausage patties, some people like their pork and beef seared first because it tends to help it hold together into chunks. But as long as it's not cooked through, it's considered raw and no water is added.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question?
No, that answered my question, and that was actually the answer I was hoping to get. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. And you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, you too, Bear. Love your videos.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, we've got nobody in the queue, so I'm going to take care of some business here. Perception is what we make of it. Tomorrow night at 8 Central on Prepping with Goat Hollow, they'll be talking about perception, adjusting our expectations in a post-SHTF world, how that bears on our preps now, and what we can expect in the future. Be sure to join in on the chat. Followed by Thursday at 6 p.m., the other side of the prepper's path. And she's going to be talking all about water. And water is very, very important. That's, to me, that's more important than your food. So you ought to tune in and find all about it. And at 8 p.m., the Homestead Honeys Michigan snow pony Renee will be talking about finding and buying your perfect homestead. And then don't forget, next Tuesday at 8 p.m., tune in to the Crooked Path to Practical Preparedness with Sissy Bob. Her alter ego, Christine, will be on to talk about guns and accessories. Christine is a handgun instructor and teaches basic handgun skills and concealed handgun license classes. Christine says she ain't no expert, but she'll share what she does know and would be happy to answer any questions she can. Okay, so we got another question here, and it says, I'm new to canning. Oh, I already got that one. Okay, I guess I need to read the chat room. I thought I read if you brown the ground beef first and put it in jars, you still don't need to add water. No, Timmy's, if it's cooked, you need to add the water. Now, a lot of people don't like the smell or texture of ground beef once it's been canned in water. There's an alternative that you can do. Why don't you make meatballs and can them? They will actually have a firmer texture than ground beef, and then you can always just break them up to use them in place of ground beef. So give that a shot if you don't like it. I usually boil my ground beef, and then it's rinsed basically, so mine doesn't seem to have a smell. And the texture, I just put the ground beef in the frying pan first and rebrown it before I mix it what I'm going to mix it with. So we have Fringe Princess from Pennsylvania in queue. Hi, Fringe Princess.
Hi. If I'm on kind of a delay, so I'll try not to screw anything up by interrupting or anything like that. But I have kind of a silly question. I haven't done canning myself. I've done it with my mom, and she's always like extremely paranoid about keeping everything really, really hot. All the lids, all the rings, all the jars, like all the time to make sure everything's sealed. I just watched your meat canning videos, and I found them really, really inspiring. But I saw you filled all the jars on the table, and there's no way, I mean, my mom, if she saw that, she'd probably freak out, like, how can you keep everything hot? And I guess that's my question. How do you make sure everything's sealed, no jars crack, and everything's safe, filling all those jars at once?
Well, most of the time, if I'm doing it like that, you're going to notice that I'm doing raw. I'm not doing cooked. Or if I am doing cooked, the last 12, 14 jars are cooked. And so what I do is those are the last jars I pull out, and I fill them with the hot meat, seal them up, and they're the first jars I put into the pressure canner. But if you're doing cold, you don't need hot jars. You don't want hot jars. And the only reason you need hot jars in any pressure canning process is so that when you put hot liquid in them, you don't crack the jars. You do not need the hot jars to sterilize.
Okay.
The canner will sterilize everything for you if you're pressure canning. If you're water bath canning, now that's a different point. And once you put the lid on it, nothing else is going to get in them, so you can't get any additional bacteria in them. But you're right, a lot of people are freaky about that. Quite a few people are. And, I can only go on my experience. I've been doing this since I was 17, and I've even done the water bath, meat and vegetables, and I'm still kicking and healthy, and, and that's all I can say.
Yeah.
Any other question you have, hon?
I guess I'm also, just because I haven't done it myself, I'm kind of confused, about when the raw pack is done in cold jars, how do you get those into hot water without dealing with the temperature difference damaging anything?
You don't get them in hot water. You start your pressure canner in cold water. Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You don't. Yeah. And it just takes longer for it to come up, but you always start it in cold water.
Okay.
If it's raw pack, okay? And otherwise, you're right. You are going to shatter your jars. Same with pulling them out. If you put them on your counter, you're probably going to shatter them. If you bring your pressure up too fast or take it down, a lot of people, when they turn off their pressure canner and they see that dial at 0 and they go, ooh, it's done, and they whip that vent thing off and they open that lid real quick and they wonder why all their jars have exploded inside. The only reason that has happened is because you first test that vent. If you hear any sizzling, then it's not ready yet. Wait 4 more minutes. Let it come all the way down. Then when you no longer, you can take that little vent cap off, that weight off, and you don't hear any sizzling, then you can open your pressure canner and you will never have a jar explode on you.
Okay.
Okay? It's really easy, hon. Really
okay,
easy.
I guess I'm just intimidated by it.
Well, your mom, they were in the generation of the changeover from, we're water bathing, and now all of a sudden we have this pressure canner and we have the USDA, and oh my goodness, it's time, everything's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And so, it's that mindset, I guess. And country folks, a lot of country folks just don't have that mindset because they weren't exposed to it as much, I guess. And I think that's why I was taught not to worry about it.
I had one other really quick question. I was reading my manual for my pressure canner today, and it talks about anytime you submerge your gauge in water or drop it or the glass looks messed up, you have to send it and get it calibrated. What do you think about that?
If my glass were to break, I would get it calibrated. If I submerged it in water, I would put it in the sun or in the oven on low, and I would dry it. It's just about rust. If you dry it quickly, it's not going to rust, and you're not going to have an issue. The only reason I even send it off every 10 years is just to say, okay, it's still working.
Mm-hmm.
I don't worry about those things. But if it does break, and that's the only way I have to tell the weight, the poundage, if I don't have a weight, then yes, I will send it off.
Thank you so much.
That answer it? You're welcome, hon, and you have a great evening.
Oh, you too.
Thank you. All right, we've got 3 in the queue, and I'm going to bring Prepper Chickie in, then the mom, and then Old Geezer. So Prepper Chickie, come on in.
Hello, Bear.
Hey,
Hello.
Prepper Chickie, how you doing this evening?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Excited about tonight. I love canning.
Me too, and I've learned a lot from all of you girls. But one thing that I don't know is why do you take the bands off after you're done canning? I do it because that's what everybody else does, but I really don't know why I do it.
Okay. Now, the bands, the first reason you want to take the bands off after canning, and it's cooled down for at least 24 hours, is you want to wash your jars. And so I take my bands off. I stick them in a sink of soapy water because I'll tell you what, if those seals aren't sealed, then I want to know if soapy water gets in my jars. So I just toss them in a sink of soapy water. Well, don't toss, gently. And I wash them up, let them all dry. And the reason people take the bands off and leave them off is because if you're storing in a humid area or outside like I do, they tend to rust. That's another reason why I don't recommend that you put your rings in your hot water. You're going to be replacing your rings all the time. So, but some people like to do it that way. But once it rusts on your jar, if you put it back on, it can pop that lid off from the pressure of the two metal surfaces rusting together. Now, I put mine back on to take them out, and then I usually take them off. Sometimes I forget, and I pay the price of a rusted ring, but I've never had a destroyed jar because I check my inventory every 2 weeks. So does that answer your question?
It does, and then you don't have to buy as many rings, right? Because you get to reuse them.
Right, because your rings aren't going to rust out, and if you don't wash them boil them in your hot water, then you don't have to worry about that protective coating coming off and everything rusting in the first place. So
cool. Thank you, Bear.
Well, thank you, Prepper Chickie. You have a great evening, and welcome to Minnesota. All right, next we have the mom. Hi, the mom. Oh, wait a minute. Let's go. Okay, go ahead, the mom. Can we bring James in, too? Yeah, can we bring James on in, too? Do you mind if James joins us? apparently he's been there a while, and I missed him.
Why don't you do James first then?
Okay, great. Thank you, the mom. James, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I am. How are you tonight?
I apologize for missing you, James.
No, it's fine. It's not a problem. But, it's okay. Prepper Chickies, good people. I got no problem with that. My question to you is this real quick. What is the oldest can you have in your inventory, and what was the first thing you ever canned?
Oh, that's the first thing I ever canned is really easy. Plum jam.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, I love plum jam. Damson plums, oh, my goodness.
Blueberries. Myself and Pocono Prepper just went blueberry picking the other day, and we canned the blueberries, and they came fantastic.
Oh, I know it. Canned food, home canned food is so much better than anything you could buy in a can or pre-made deli crud, because you've made it with what you like to eat with it.
Correct.
So, and the oldest thing, to be honest, the oldest thing I had in my food storage, I got rid of about a year ago because I couldn't resist eating it. It was a jar of plum jam that I canned in 1982.
Wow.
And it was so good. And it had wax on the top. So every 5 years I would add a little layer of wax to the top because, it's just going to seep through. It makes little holes. And I would just add another layer. No, I'm not eating it this year.
I was going to say, my question to you real quick, what's the purpose of the wax? Can you explain that again? I'm sorry.
Well, in the olden days, I say olden days, when I began canning, the way you did jelly, jams, butters, preserves, is you would cook it in the pot, just like you do now, and you would put it in the jar, but you didn't put it in a boiling water bath or use a metal lid. All you did was melt some wax, about a 1/4 inch thick, and you would just slowly pour it over the lid, starting from the outside to the end while it was really hot.
Wow.
And make it a 1/4 inch thick, and that's how you can jelly, jams, butters, preserves. That's how you did it.
That's unbelievable. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for answering my question. Shout out to Pet Prepper, Prepper Chickie, and Ironhead, and Paula. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you, and again, sorry. Bye-bye, hon. All right, the mom, you want to come back in? Did we lose the mom?
Uh-oh. Did you lose me?
Nope, I got you. There you are. How are you this evening, hon? Thank you so much for that.
I'm calling to thank you because you keep me from saying a lot of bad words.
How do I do that?
Thank you for teaching me to put a little bit of vinegar in the pressure canner so that I don't have to scrape off all that white junk after I'm done canning.
Oh, I hate that. I hate it. When I forget, I just want to slap myself silly because I'm like, oh, no, I got to clean them.
Oh, it's such a pain in the neck. It's such a pain in the neck. And so I did not know that, and for years I have been scraping the white stuff off of, because I have minerals in my water, scraping the white stuff off of the off of my jar.
Yep.
And then I do have a question. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, you know what else helps is one of the things I do is I have 6 gallons of water that I keep right there by my sink, and I fill up my coffee pot with it because, here in Texas we have really horrible hard water. And so I use it for my coffee pot, and I use 1 gallon. That way I never have to worry or move the pot. I take one of those 1-gallon teas, and the water's been sitting there for a week or two, and I pour that in my pressure canner. And a lot of times it eliminates it without having to use hardly any vinegar.
Oh, that's a good idea, too. But I think I'll just put the glug of vinegar in. Then when you take everything out, it's all nice and shiny, and you feel like you did something rather than make a mess.
Well, for those that can't afford the vinegar, that's another option for them.
There you go. I want to know about care of the rubber gasket in your pressure canner. Anything special need to be done with them?
The rubber gasket, I pull it out, I wash it in soap and water, I rinse it thoroughly, and I dry it immediately. Do not leave it in your lid. If you leave it in your lid, it's going to be stretched completely out, and you're going to get cracking. a whole lot quicker. If you just toss it in your pot, it's not touching any metal per se. It's not being stretched into place, and it really lasts a long time.
And then several times I've canned and I've had the liquid suck right out of the canning jar. What causes that?
There are a lot of things that can cause it, but mostly it's bringing the pressure down too quick or opening the vent too soon. It'll just suck that out. Now, there's also, if you're not tightening the lid, so the first thing I would try probably is women have a tendency, our hand tight is a little looser than it should be, and so you want to tighten it just a tiny bit more and try that, and a lot of times that's going to fix your problem. If you're a man, don't do this because men tend to crank the lids down. They really do. But women, we just tend to say, okay, that's tight. Do it just a hair more, just another tweak, and that'll probably is what your problem is.
Okay.
And if that doesn't work, then look at the other things that it could be with the pressure going down too quick.
I'm pretty sure it's the pressure going down too quick. In the beginning days, I used to get so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I understand.
But thanks, Bear, and thanks for keeping me from having to scrape white stuff off my jars.
You're so very welcome, Mom. Have a great evening. All right, folks. Phone number to call is 347-202-0228. And it looks like we've got Simple Old Girl. She asked the question, can you recommend a good canning book for beginners to meet canning? All right, and thank you for your appreciation. That really helps. I would say that if you're a beginner, you want to do the complete book of Home Preserving by Ball. I don't believe in the little blue Ball book that they have but a couple recipes of meat, whereas the complete book of Home Preserving. And then next one after that, I would probably go with Putting Food By, and that is done by, who is this? I have all my books right here in front of me in case one of you guys try to throw me a curve. It doesn't say, let's see, Hertzberg, Vaughn, and Green. And that is another really good one. So that's what I would recommend. All right, looks like we have Old Geezer in the queue. Old Geezer, are you still there?
I am, Bear. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you, hon?
I'm just fine. I have a real simple or could be difficult question for you. And here you go. What are your favorite canning lids, Ball, Kerr, or Tattler? And why?
Tattler by far. Tattler by far. They are absolutely amazing. You can reuse them. They're easy to use once you understand how to use them. And, you know, you don't have to throw them away. You buy them once. They're good indefinitely. And for those of you that are concerned with BPA, they have no BPA plastic in them. But I have a couple hundred of them. And they are just, the only difference between the Tattler lids and regular lids is once they come out of the pressure canner, you have to tighten the lid. So they don't stick, and so you have to tighten it and then just let it cool for 24 hours. And I have yet to have anything fail the minute I did that. Now, if you want to get Tattlers, I see Stickball Preppers talking about them. Watch out for these one-day deals. I got 100 of them for $40 one day. So, and the next one, of course, would be Ball. I love Ball lids. So I always do some of my jars in Ball lids because I give it away, and I don't want to lose my Tattlers.
Well, that makes perfect sense, and thank you, Bear. I'm sure a lot of other people were curious, just were afraid to ask. And
well, thank you so much for calling.
Oh, no problem, and I'll talk to you again on the first Tuesday of August.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. And that's right, we're going to have Old Geezer on talking about communication. So, folks, be ready for that. Let's give him lots of questions, okay? Thank you, Old Geezer. All right, next we have Sherry from Texas. I think she's still there. We've got a few more. Okay.
I'm still here.
Well, good. I'm glad you didn't leave, hon.
No, I didn't. I've got a couple
for you.
Huh?
What can I answer for you, hon?
I've got a couple of questions for you. I inherited a Presto pressure cooker canner. I've never done any pressure canning before, just the water bath canner. And so I don't really know anything about this, but I don't have a weight or a gauge on the top. So are the weights and gauges universal, or is it universal maybe to a product line?
Well, you're talking about the brand new Presto pressure cooker, pressure canner. And that is a totally different concept. And, yes, you can in it. One of my viewers was telling me about it, so I went up and did some research on it. And, no, you do not have a weight. It is used by – they have some sort of mechanism inside that senses the pressure.
Oh.
And so that's why you don't have a weight.
Oh, I thought it was missing.
Nope. It just that's the way they do it. So, yeah, it's really interesting. I was looking at it. I was like, that's not a pressure canner. And I had to do my research, and, yeah, it is a pressure canner. So good. That was pretty cool that you got one that can do both.
Okay. Well, I'll have to do some research on how to use it. I have another question about the gasket. Now, this thing, I will tell you, it's Harvest Gold, so it gives you an idea of the age. It has a rubber gasket. You know, it's always been in there since I acquired it a couple of years ago. Do I even chance it, or do I just replace it?
What you need to do is you pull that rubber gasket out, and you fold it in a couple spots. Just fold it, tight so that, and make it flat. And look, if there's cracks, then you need to replace it. If there's no cracks, then don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah, it's still pretty pliable. I haven't taken it out, but it's still pretty pliable. Okay.
Right, but pliable doesn't mean non-cracks.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
and one more quick question. I see that everybody's using their oven to sterilize their jars. I mean, I used to just dump them in the big pot of hot boiling water. So when you sterilize your jars in the oven, I think the temperature I've seen is people are talking about 300 degrees, but I don't know how long.
I do not sterilize my jars in the oven. The only time I put my jars in the oven is to make canned cheese or canned butter. And that is to get them hot enough to withstand the hot temperature that boiling butter and boiling cheese go to. I know that probably in one of these books in front of me, I have how to do it in the oven, but I've never heard of it being 300 degrees.
Okay.
I thought it was always around like 200 degrees to sterilize. And so you do know that if you're canning vegetables or meat in a pressure canner, you don't have to sterilize.
No, I didn't know that. Like I said, I usually do, I've got fig trees right now that I'm getting ready to do fig preserves in. But I have, that's just water bath. It's not pressure canning.
Now, water bath, you do have to sterilize your jars, but pressure canning, the pressure canner sterilizes your jars for you.
Okay. So when you do water bath, I assume you just use the boiling water to sterilize your jars then?
I use my dishwasher. I cheat.
Oh, okay. That works too. That my dishwasher gets hot. All right, Bear, thank you so much. I appreciate what you do. I love your shows, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much, honey. You have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye. All right, looks like we've got, that was Sherry. So now we're at Wheat Tree has a question. What about canning the HEB pre-cooked sliced brisket? I can that. That would be considered cooked meat, and you would add water to it. I have a bunch of that canned. So enjoy. It's really good. And you're going to heat it up before you put it in the jars and put boiling water or boiling broth on it, okay? And now we have Grandpa Coyote in the queue. I won't call you Grandpa. Hey, Grandpa. Are you there, Grandpa?
Hello?
Oh, is this Grandpa Coyote? Who's this? Hello, is this T-Pix?
We have T-Pix in the room.
Okay. Hi, T-Pix.
Hi. I just had a quick question.
Okay.
Two, actually. I've heard different stories. What is better, dehydrating or canning? I mean, depending on who you speak with, I guess, which would be better?
I am a proponent of dehydrating more than I can, but let me explain to you why I take that philosophy. Dehydrated foods are lighter, they're easier to store, and all of us are tight on storage space, and their weight is a whole lot less. I try to do 75% of my food storage dehydrated and 25% of it canned. If you have an earthquake or tornado, you might be able to find some of your dehydrated food after the fact, but you're not going to find any of your canned food. So canned food is mainly for variety and for seasonal items.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I do have one more question about frozen vegetables. Can you can those? And if you do, how do you go about doing them? Because I love to find them on sale, but I don't have a really big freezer.
Yes, you can. I do it all the time. Matter of fact, I've got my tomatoes in the freezer right now, and I've got almost enough to make my chili and my spaghetti sauce. Well, I'll probably just make one or the other. I just pull them out, thaw them, can them just as I would if they were fresh.
Oh, okay.
No different time.
I buy the big 5-pound bag of vegetables, and
there you go. And sometimes you go to the dollar store and you get, 5 green peppers here and 3 there, and it's better to store them up and can them or dehydrate them as you get them.
Okay. I haven't had much luck with dehydrating. Everything turns out horrible right now.
Oh, well, we're going to, next month, I think my third Tuesday, we're going to talk about dehydrating, so maybe I can help you out then.
Well, I've only started like 2 weeks ago, so I'm still
well, there you go. You're learning. You're doing good, though. Hang in there, honey. It'll get better.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now we have, bye-bye. Now we have Grandpa Coyote in the queue. Grandpa, you there?
I'm here, if you can hear me.
I keep trying to bring you in early.
That's all right. Well, first of all, let me say hello to you, ma'am. I've only ever talked to you in comments on YouTube.
Well, it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you, too. I got 2 quick questions for you. The first one is, when you store your canned goods in your larder, do you keep the rings on them or do you not?
I take the rings off when I store them in my shed, when I remember to take them off. When I don't remember to take them off, I got to throw them away.
My grandma used to say that if you left them on, they rusted, so I was wondering about that.
They do. Yes,
okay.
They do. And they'll pop your lids off 9 times out of 10 once they rust if you don't catch it.
Right. All right. Well, that's good to know. Second question I had is, can you can garlic that you've taken the peel off of in oil? Or how would you can that?
I was just looking at that recipe the other night on canning garlic in oil. And yes, you can garlic in oil. And what you do is you take your garlic, and the first thing you do is you stick a toothpick. With garlic or onion, you want to stick a toothpick down the center of it.
All right.
And what that does is that helps it not float because you want it to cover. And then you cover it with oil and you can it. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that say, oh, no, don't do oil. You can choose not to do oil. I have cans of oil that have lasted 5 years open. Once it's sealed, as long as it's sealed, nothing's going to go bad. So, but use olive oil.
That was going to be my last question was what oil to use.
Olive oil, always.
Well,
it is the most stable.
You're
welcome.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say you're welcome. I appreciate the question.
Well, I sure do thank you for all you put out there for all of us, and you have a good night. I'm going to go listen to the rest of the show now.
Well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, let me take care of a couple of things. I think we're going to extend the time a little bit because I still have people in the queue, and I got a little business to take care of, so let me take care of some business first. And Texas Grammy, if you could hold just a minute, we'll get you in next. I want to remind those of you in Bexar County area we will be having our first meetup on July 28th, 10 to 4 p.m. at McAllister Park Pavilion number 3. So bring a picnic lunch, chair, and bug spray. There's a couple of barbecues and some picnic tables. Also, there is a very nice play area for the kids next to the pavilion. It should be a great time, so please don't forget to RSVP with a number of people attending, including children, so that I can meet the city's requirements for utilizing the pavilion for free. You can either send me a PM on my YouTube channel, or you can email me at BexarPrepper, so BexarPrepper @att.net. And I will see you a week from this Tuesday, August 3rd at 8 p.m. Central Time, where we will be talking about how to communicate off-grid. Okay, you've got CBs, hams, high and low frequency, pricey and cheap antennas. We will be talking about setting up our communications and communication network. Old Geezer Prepper from YouTube will be helping us to understand the basics and also answer questions for more advanced listeners. He has been a prepper since late 1979 and a licensed ham radio operator since 1985. He has also promised to KISS, or not get so technical we get lost. So then we will be also joined by Dave from Happy to Survive, a company that offers an e-magazine for homesteaders and preppers designed especially for the iPad and iPhone. So I hope to see you then. Now, let's go ahead and get Texas Grammy in the queue. Hi, Texas Grammy. Oh. Are you there, Texas Grammy, or I lose you?
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Texas Bear. How are you, my fellow Texas buddy?
I know your accent's a lot worse than mine.
No, not real. I mean, it shouldn't be. I'm far west Texas. But anyway, I do have a question for you considering canning. Last night I pressure canned about 20 pounds of chicken, and it was a raw pack method. And when I was pulling out, one of my jars was sputtering, and I noticed that some of the broth had come out, but it seemed to have sealed. I mean, the seal was tight. And I heard the ping. But a lot of the broth was out. Do you think that can's still good?
If it's sealed, it's still good. But just next time, like I said, women tend to not tighten enough. Once you tighten it, give it another little tweak.
Right.
And that'll stop that from happening.
Okay. I was just wondering if I had to toss that but since it was sealed, I figured it was okay. But anyway, thanks for all you do. We just love your show and love you, and keep up the good work, sweetie.
Oh, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful evening.
You too, honey. Bye-bye.
Okay, we got no one in the queue. Oh, my goodness, and no questions? Does this mean we're going to end the show on time tonight? Wow, well, I kind of like that, too. So let me go ahead and finish up here. And so tonight I would like to close with this quote. Over the years, Americans in particular have been all too willing to squander their hard-earned independence and freedom for the illusion of feeling safe under someone else's authority. The concept of self-sufficiency has been undermined in value over a scant few generations. The vast majority of the population seems to look down their noses upon self-reliance as some quaint, dusty relic entertained only by hyper-paranoid or those hopelessly incapable of fitting into mainstream society. And guess who that's by? Cody London, When All Hell Breaks Loose. Stuff you need to survive when disaster strikes. So you can find more of me on YouTube and on Facebook, also here on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Good night and blessings, everyone.
Today's broadcast has come to you through the courtesy of the Prepper Broadcasting Network. See our hosts, show schedules, archive programs, and more at prepperbroadcasting.com. Thanks for listening.